Got Drew Merritt here to speak to you guys today. Drew's got a fascinating story he's going to share with you about his journey as a professional artist. He's got ties here to the Amarillo area, of course, with the Hoodoo Mural Festival and some of the murals he's done here. And I can't wait for him to share with you his experience. Drew is a fine artist and muralist known for his striking realism and ability to merge classical aesthetics and contemporary themes. Raised on a ranch in New Mexico, his early connection to nature and solitude shaped a storytelling approach that blends tradition with modernity. Beginning his career in graffiti, Merritt's work evolved into large-scale murals and meticulously rendered oil paintings that explore themes of human vulnerability, emotion, and the fleeting nature of time. His art juxtaposes Renaissance-inspired portraiture with contemporary, often decayed backdrops, creating a dialogue between past and present. With murals spanning international cityscapes as well as across the U.S. and gallery exhibitions worldwide, Merritt's work invites reflection on identity, isolation, and empathy in the modern world. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you Drew Merritt.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. How are y'all doing today? Good, good. Just want to start off by saying thank you to everybody for coming. Listen to me talk all about myself for a little bit. All right, lock the back doors, lock that door. Y'all are going to hear about it. That was a joke. No, but really, thank you for Amarillo, just everybody involved. I know this is a lot to put together, so it's an honor and a privilege to be here. It's a packed house. It's wild. Yeah. All right, well, I guess we'll just jump right into it, and let's go. So, if you don't know me or my work, I don't blame you. I'll hold it against you in the future after this if you don't remember me. But yeah. So I'm a painter and a muralist. I grew up in Clovis, New Mexico, or St. Vrain, New Mexico, but Clovis is the closest spot. A lot of ties to Amarillo, Lubbock, Texas in general. If you grew up here, if you're around here, you kind of know that it's all kind of like one big thing connected by a lot of little cities. So everybody that's ambitious from where I am from, they end up trying to come to Amarillo. So it's a big deal for me to like be here, just like my childhood self. So we'll start off just by reiterating that my roots. Yeah, that's pretty much covered that. If you don't know me, this is my handwriting. Don't hold it against me. So the fat one in the front on the horse is me. Just in case you didn't know, I was actually from around this area. That's my dad, my older brother on the back, and this is some snapshots of my granddad. And I believe that these were taken around Dimmitt or Nazareth, Texas. So that's kind of close to here, and they would come over here. And one of my early things, introduction to art, was the big cowboy in Canyon. Have any of y'all driven by there? Seen the massive cowboy? No? Yeah, got some hands up. My dad would tell me stories when I was a little kid where like he would get real upset if my grandparents were driving by and they didn't wake him up to see the big statue of the cowboy. So grew up around here. There's not a lot. So I think that it's really cool seeing all y'all grow up somewhere like Amarillo where there's like this like surge and movement of art in the last few years that is just it's one of the coolest places in the nation. Shout out to Hoodoo and like all these other cool muralists and things that are popping up around here. It's like it's just really cool to see. So I guess I should probably like start by saying how I got into art and murals in general from the fat baby on the horse. Here I am doing some illegal stuff when I was probably around y'all's age. Probably shouldn't be showing that, but I don't care. So as you can tell, the early 2000s style wasn't exactly on par, but it's coming back, and I see it in y'all, and I'm happy and I'm proud. So growing up, Clovis, New Mexico, around that, St. Vrain, New Mexico, farm and ranch, there was one road into our place and one road out. So it was very common to just see graffiti constantly coming through on trains. And early on, I didn't really make a connection that street art and graffiti was supposed to be, an urban art form. Would be working cattle on a horse, and the trains would go by and be like, oh, that was a dope throwy. Like, and then it'd like go home and you try to draw it and you kind of do things like that. So it was like very mixed. Like it was something that was connected in my eyes growing up. And I think that like, hopefully that some of y'all can relate out here to that, just being kind of like in a more rural community. So yeah, I was probably around y'all's age there. And this also is kind of something cool and interesting to me, where like at that time I was a little bit of a purist, and like where I was like, oh no, sketching out, like no, we're just gonna freestyle, freehand everything, make it up out of your head going. And looking back from where I am now and looking at these photos, I really wish I would have taken some time to sketch some things out and think about it a little bit. Yeah, you can see like me and a buddy of mine with some 6-shooters and a pickup driving through a cornfield with a bunch of girls and flags and like spray cans. Not the coolest thing. Really wish I would have thought that one through. So I'm trying to think of what age I was around. Yeah, I was probably around y'all's age in there. And before I get to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about background. If I could just see a raise of hand, who in here has failed art class before? All right, so I'm one of 3 in here that has failed art. So around this time, I was doing all my assignments, but my teacher had a like weird thing for me. So I failed art. I was writing graffiti, getting a little bit of trouble, and it didn't go well. I had a constant seat in the hallway, and that was my art background. And I wish that I would have had more teachers like you guys have. Because it is truly a great thing to have somebody that will just kind of point you in the right direction and like inspire that artistic nature. And after that teacher, I had the next teacher, which was my godsend. I got into her class. It was ceramics and things like that. And the first thing that she told me was like, well, what do you want to do? I can't teach you anything. And that was the coolest thing, because all year I spent on a realistic bust of a woman with a shawl, and it turned out great. And then she put it in the kiln and the back of the head blew off. But anyways, she just let me do whatever and fostered my creativity. And I see that in a lot of y'all's teachers and a lot of like the organizers here. So I just think it's really cool. Moving from that area of my life into the next, trying to figure out where and what to do and how to do things artistically and where to go. My dad always told me this thing, because like I could draw and I could do all this stuff. And he was like, it doesn't matter. He's a farmer and a rancher. And he told me, like, it doesn't matter if I can grow a 3,000-pound pumpkin. How am I going to sell that? And in my little mind, I said, well, I'm going to find a pumpkin pie factory. So automatically, like from the ranch, I was trying to figure out where to go and how to just create art for a living. So the first time I moved away, it was in Dallas, Texas. And I'm a little bit older than y'all in this. Also early 2000s style, not the best, with Jason Kidd Dallas Maverick jersey and the half-off beanie. But this was some of my earlier stuff, just hanging out, writing graffiti with a bunch of artists in Dallas. And it was eye-opening, it was very cool, and it was trying to figure out where I fit into the landscape through like street art and graffiti. The weird worm striped-y thing up there that looks like it's out of like a Beetlejuice movie. That's my signature. There's like a D, and then there's like a little squiggly thing. Anyways, moving on. Took some time off after that, and from LA, I moved back to New Mexico for a little bit because moved back from Dallas for a little bit because it wasn't exactly like an art mecca like I thought it was. Any big city isn't exactly the right city. Like, you got to find your own place. So took some time off, and then I ended up trying to just like really buckle down. I spent a lot of time in Amarillo, painted a lot of murals on 6th Street, did some cool stuff around here, super young again. Before I just kind of made that decision where it was like, man, I like really want to give this a shot. I still haven't found my pumpkin pie factory. And I guess I'm gonna like just go to the biggest city that I know because there's water, there's surfing, which I'd never done, but I thought was really cool. And then there's graffiti. So I was like, I'm gonna go to Los Angeles and just give it a shot, see what happens. And so for about 3 months, I lived out of my car in LA, popped up and down the coast, trying to find a spot, trying to figure out like how the art thing worked. There was no guidance. No one was talking to me about galleries or style or anything. And I found an apartment out there, was living out there. And then I thought to myself, I was like, man, I'm gonna give up. I'm gonna go home, just gonna be a rancher. I'm gonna have cattle. Like it'll be okay. I'll always be an artist. I'll just paint on my own and I won't do it for a living. And a friend of mine flew out to hang out, and we got this wild idea since I hadn't done any street art or graffiti for a lot of years. I was just doing canvas work, trying to figure out a style, trying to find my place. Like I'm sure like a room full of artists, I'm sure like every one of you is like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. It doesn't stop. I'm still doing it. We're all going to do that for forever. And I think that that's part of growth. But so anyways, fast forwarding to LA, this was a wheat paste I did in LA of oil painting that I printed out. And my friend was about to fly out of town. We were just like, we're just going to go loose in LA and do a little bit of street art. So we found a huge red wall in downtown. I was like, yeah, this'll be it. And then like in a couple of months, I'll move out of here. Well, throwing that last punch and doing this little thing in LA, putting up the wheat paste and spray paint around it, doesn't look like much, but the next day it was featured in an online blog and magazine called Complex, and it just blew up from there. So it was just like that one little thing where you're ready to give up, throw the last punch, and I swear, like it was the coolest thing to be like, oh my gosh, like it started popping up online and on Instagram and Facebook, and like everybody, like the whole general viewpoint of art had changed in my world literally overnight, where people were like, oh, I'm so happy to see this on my way to work, and everybody's taking photos with it and everything. And it was like, wow, I kind of wish I would have thought that through again and done a little bit more thought into like my first kind of like piece in street art. And one of the reasons why I'm showing you all this stuff is because it's so bad, is that it's all work and it's all process and it's all like moving forward. And you don't just pop up and being like, wow, like this is the coolest art ever. It's like you kind of measure success in art like anything else. It's always by failure. It's not by your successes. It's like by how many times you failed. And I kind of think about it as drawing with an eraser. If you just keep drawing, then it's like whatever. But it's like every artist is kind of their own worst critic. And it's like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to erase, and then I'm going to do it again, and then erase and do it again. So hopefully like you guys can relate to all this stuff. Just want to share my personal journey. So hopefully like you guys can take from that and apply it to your own stuff. All of my mistakes, hopefully you learn from my mistakes. So then moving on into walls to canvas and like murals to fine art. And this is where like, I hope, bear with me guys, I'm gonna nerd out real hard. So this is whenever I was trying to figure out a style. This is my sketchbook, and it looks like a huge mess. And this is one page of a few like this, where I was working with oil paints, but I was doing all of these murals with spray paint. And the spray paint on murals wasn't translating to the artistic style that I wanted to do on canvas. And this was one of the biggest challenges for me, because like I knew how I wanted everything to look. I knew the style that I wanted to do. I knew what made me happy. I knew like what expressed myself the best. So each one of these is a spray paint color and label next to the closest color that I could find in spray paint brands. So it was like oil versus spray paint and back and forth. And there are pages of this, and then there's even mixtures of spray paint, splotches, and then like these two oil colors will get this spray paint splotch and vice versa. and a little bit of layers. Some layers are transparent, so like you can like layer up transparent spray paints on another color to get a certain shade. And so, like I said, we're gonna nerd out real hard on that because it's just, I mean, like sky's the limit. The materials that are out there right now with like oil paint, acrylic, spray paint, like I can't wait to see what y'all do with all of it. So moving forward, and we'll get into the process a little bit. Not so much the murals right now, but more just concept to canvas work. So you can see the top left hand corner is the initial idea of something. So it's like you just want to get the idea down. It's like your first draft. Don't worry about how it looks. Like your brain is gonna remember like, oh yeah, it was that idea. And so for me, what I do is like everything just ends up in like one of my moleskins I carry around in my back pocket a lot. And something will pop into my head or like this concept. This one has to do with duality and a lot of inner turmoil and like cool, dark, artsy stuff. But like in a really positive, bright light. So like you get that concept down and you kind of like, you can even make some notes in the back is like what I do, colors, symbolism, things down from like fortune telling, but it's like, how do you make that fun? And like a magic 8-ball is cool. I love those things. You ask it a question. Anyways, y'all might be too young for that, but your parents, they know what's up. And so like, moving into that, it's like I'll find a friend or actor, actress, or for this one, it was a friend who was both. And I'll find somebody that like I like the way they look. I like the innocence of the way they look, and I can really like think about what they're going to portray in that painting. And so like thinking about that, it's like casting someone in a play or a movie or anything. So from there, like wardrobe, I'll go like rent like some Victorian stuff because I have this concept, and I know a lot of other people kind of use this as well that I'm friends with. That if you can't tell what time period something was made in, that it has a better chance of becoming like a classic. And I think that that's very important for my own thing. This is all me. Everyone has their own opinions and stuff, but I like stuff like that because I feel like it has a better chance of lasting the test of time, and it won't be just kind of like part of a trend, which also leans into like murals and street art. Like I don't want to be part of like necessarily like a street art graffiti movement, and then like 5 years from now it was like that was kind of like a thing, and now it's done. So like I'll go and I'll cast the person, find the wardrobe, do the dress, and then I move on to a photo shoot because I really like solid reference photos for paintings. It's one of my favorite things because then if you have something solid, then you can have fun from then on out, change things, brush strokes, really see someone's personality. You can see my palette up there in the middle, and then down to the right-hand corner, you see the finished painting. And then one of my favorite part that I'm just gonna really hit home on like every one of these slides is I love seeing paintings and like murals in the wild with like people enjoying them and looking at them. So the top was a gallery show in LA, and you can kind of tell the size of the painting as well. I think it's like 6 foot by 9 foot, which if you grow up writing graffiti, street art, it skews everything with size, and then all of a sudden everything is huge, and that's easier than doing small things, which makes them really hard to sell. Just future reference. And then again, here's another one similar. The concept, you can barely see my little stick figures and my doodles. You can probably not tell what that is. There's like bridges behind them that I decided to nix at the last minute. It's like the LA River, and then like this particular I really like, and this leans into like kind of like a hip hop culture and growing up and those sorts of things where it's like remixes. So I think it was a painting by John Singer Sargent that I saw that I loved it was a commission for him, but it was of 3 people. And for me, like I see that and I'm like, oh, symbolism, like the 3 muses. And then I'm going to like do this and this and this. So there's a lot of symbolism in there as well. I move from the sketch, get the idea, bring in a lot of my friends and buddies, and then we'll do a big elaborate photo shoot with wardrobe and everything. And then sometimes from that, I'll move into like a more solid sketch and drawing study to see like how I think things are going to fit together. And then once again on the right, the finished the finished painting and a lot of like things like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much that one. And then going back to casting people as plays. So this is Nathaniel. Nathaniel is my favorite painting I've ever done, and kind of hate all my work, but I hate everyone else's more. I know y'all know what that feels like. So I showed up in Atlanta to paint a mural, and I had no idea what I was going to paint. I had no idea what the wall was like, anything. I show up, the organizers give me a ride to the wall. The lift pulls up, then a pickup pulls up with all my paint. And I'm like, dang, I just need somewhere to paint. And Nathaniel here walks around the corner, is like, hey. So that's how we met. And I was like, hey, do you want to be in a painting? And he was like, sure. So snapped some photos of Nathaniel. We had a good conversation, and he had some health issues, and he told me that he was going to tell God that he said hello for me. And I was like, I really appreciate that. That's the coolest thing anyone's ever said. So he kind of just like everything lined up. And so then here is the photo of Nathaniel that I took. And you can just tell, dude's a light, love that guy. And then on the right, this is about, like 1/20th of the way through, but I was getting through the midtones and everything, and the building owner walked up and was like, hey man, you can't paint that. And so this is kind of a trial and error thing that I have going through this, as well as like, you're gonna be shut down, people aren't gonna get it, they're not gonna like it. Or they're gonna just, whatever the thing may be. I learned that this guy and the building owner, like they'd been going back and forth in a while. They didn't really like each other, so that was the reason. But it made me sad because I was looking so forward to like painting him. Once again, measuring success by failure, I was like, well, if you don't want Nathaniel on your building, I'm pissed, because he told me that he was gonna tell God hello for me. So Nathaniel ended up being one of my favorite oil paintings ever. I was in the home of a private collector now, and I made stickers of him. I made T-shirts of him. Nathaniel is everywhere. I made sure of it. But I just think that that's like such a cool story in my own little personal journey, where it was like I get shut down, and then it's like, no, Nathaniel will be everywhere. So there's the finished painting again, and yeah. I really hope he told God, because, put in a good word with him. You know what I'm saying? And then we'll move a little bit into some more murals. So this is a process mural, a process photo of a mural in downtown LA. And this will relate to some canvas stuff in a moment, but this is always fun. And I think like is another important lesson for me, where it's art isn't really 9 to 5. It's like, oh wow, you have a certain amount of time. I think this was probably taken at around 3 a.m. downtown LA, and I was still going. Here's the finished mural, all spray paint. I think it was on the corner of 4th Street in downtown. And I'm trying to think of what to really say about that. The lace was fun, very hard. I don't suggest it. And I don't know why I keep doing it. I hate painting fabric. I hate it. Every one of my paintings has fabric. Moving on. So here is some canvas and panel work from that same reference, just to drive the point home that you can really, like from this is all spray paint, and this is all oil paint. There's a little bit of spray paint on the right side panel, which is just like oil and spray paint on wood. But mixing those mediums from like a really big scale down to small, it's really difficult, but it can be done. And it just makes me really happy, because spray paint is usually known as a more rough medium, but it just keeps getting better and better and more refined and more refined. There's some people really pushing the boundaries with it. Excuse me. Moving on again into some more oil work. I really like to use like symbolism and stuff. Communication for me is a little bit difficult sometimes. So communicating through like visual arts is kind of always how I've been doing it or done it. And that's why stuff like this is so difficult for me, because I'm a visual artist. And I chose this as kind of like my communication instead of public speaking. So if I stutter, if I stammer, if I don't make sense, if my ADHD kicks in and I'm just up here blabbering for the next hour, just bear with me, guys. So the same process with this one, but then it's fun because the painting on the right is one that I painted to go with it, and it's just fun for like paintings and things to communicate with them with each other as well. Like you can see the reflection of her face in the teapot, and like it's just really fun for me, and I think I just wanted to throw it in there because I like it. Moving forward, this is the spray paint version of that oil painting on a wall in Portland, Oregon, I believe. And the irony is that I had to rent wardrobe and stuff for my friend, and then it was actually on a costume shop. So I don't understand why. Anyways, moving on. This is a painting in St. Petersburg or St. Pete, Florida. Doesn't look the same now because the sun hit it so hard, so it's very faded now, but this was right whenever I finished it. Moving into the spray paint versus oil paint again, this was like another reference, communication, and the entire reason, I don't know if y'all can see it, it's a little bit small, but the entire reason why I wanted to paint this on a wall, because my friend had a tattoo of a smiley face on her hand, and I just thought it was hilarious. Yeah, Gators, Florida, communication, all the fun stuff. And then moving forward, this is the oil painting of that similar reference photo shoot. And I really enjoyed painting it because there wasn't a lot of fabric. Another one in Portland, Oregon. The best part about this boxing glove painting is that it was above a donut shop. So for about 2 weeks, I just ate a lot of donuts. And then the painting on the right side, it's just very fun for me to do the same things large scale as it is small scale. So the idea that somebody can take that painting home and hang it on their wall and enjoy it every day and get something out of it every day makes my life. And then the exact opposite, where it's like people walking by every day on their way to work or while they're eating donuts, just enjoying painting, it just makes me really happy. Another example of oil versus a different medium. So the painting on the left on the wall is in Honolulu, it's in Hawaii, and it was all done with house paint. So there was no spray paint on the island at that time. So improvisation, is that a word? You know what I'm talking about. It's key. It's like you're not always gonna have, you know, a 200-foot boom lift and like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of spray paint, and it's maybe like something doesn't work out, maybe it's raining. There's always going to be some curveball. We'll get into that a little bit later at the end because there's been a lot of lessons learned. So this one was challenging because you can see like on the right, the oil painting, whenever you work with oil or any colors, your colors are there and that's how they are. With house paint, it dries about 3 shades darker. So any color that I mixed up, I had to anticipate that it was going to dry about 3 shades darker than what I painted it as. So those challenges will pop up and there'll be a lot of like learning curves. That one took me a pretty long time compared to anything with spray paint, just because I kept painting in it and it was too dark, and then I would mix them up again, 2 or 3 shades lighter, and then it was still too dark, mix it up again, layer, and you got a lady holding a bald cat. This one is an example of 2 of the exact same types of media on different surfaces. The one on the left is about 12 inches by 12 inches, about a foot by a foot, acrylic on panel. I had a deadline to meet. Sure, all y'all get that in classes. Had a deadline to meet, and I didn't really know what to do because oil paint generally takes about 3 to 6 months to dry, and then you're supposed to wait about 3 to 6 months after to varnish it. So acrylic dries fast, get it out the door, ship it out to the gallery, all good. So the little one, I had to make it look like it was one of my oil paintings, but with a different medium. Now, on the right, that is in Seattle, Washington, through a buddy of mine's gallery spaces called Archive. And being from Seattle, we thought it'd be like really cool to do another octopus. And then he was like, hey, you haven't done a larger scale version of that one that you've done. Would you like want to do something similar? So I agreed. It was a little bit too small for spray paint, and it was a little bit too big for paint. So that one is a mixture of base house paint, and the rest of it is acrylic paint. So those are exactly the same mediums, same color palettes, same everything, just a little bit of a twist, and you can kind of see like some variation just because of size. So it just makes me happy because it's like a little bit of a flex, you know what I mean? We'll go into some sketches versus oil paintings, some studies. The one on the left, a toned paper with charcoal, and then the one on the right is oil. Pretty self-explanatory, but just keep messing around until you get it the way you want it to look. And then I kind of have this strange thing because I really like the one on the left a lot better. There's a lot more movement and stuff. In that same series where I was using the colors, you can tell that there's not really any white and oil painting on the right, which is kind of strange, but I started playing around with my own palettes and stuff, so all of it's like really light pink. It's just kind of another little nerd fun palette thing that I like. Moving on into this painting, this one is about, I want to say like 17 feet long, maybe by, I can't remember how tall. It's a number from all my artists out there. I know y'all are bad at that too, so it's big. And this is fun just because it was like free reign for gallery show. Just kind of looks like a yard sale. I don't know. It was a wreck. A lot of symbolism and fun stuff in there. Free for all. Moving forward though, walls again versus canvas with different mediums. That big painting was all oil. The one with the creepy looking girl, same photo references from those that I was using to paint, but it's all spray paint on corrugated tin in New Orleans, I believe. And then moving forward into the bottom one on the right, that's acrylic paint with spray paint background. But it's just very fun to see the different variations and like the similar styles you can get with different mediums. Same way with this one in Austin, Texas, Dead Bat. I don't know, seemed appropriate. But anyway, so there's pencil drawing, oil on panel painting, and then spray paint on an old wall in Austin, which was a lot of fun to paint. Moving forward from sketches into oil paintings, acrylic on paper versus the finished oil painting, and then moving into oil on paper. There's like such cool mediums, y'all. Like this is oil paper, so you can literally just paint oil onto the paper and it's all good. Like I wish I would have known about this when I was y'all's age, not to date myself. And then moving right along into same reference, but acrylic on wall by a women's restroom. Gotta keep it classy. Yeah. Here's a mural in Sweden. This was a lot of fun because I got to play with kind of like Scandinavian culture and subject matter. I was like, oh dang, I want to paint like a Viking queen, and then I want like a raven's feather, like Odin's raven, and just stupid stuff. But a whole lot of fun to paint. Very cool to be able to travel all over the world and see different cultures and talk to different people, and that was one of my favorite experiences. I thought I was going for more of like a Sweden vacation. They put me in like a yurt in a campsite by a river, which made things a little bit different, but a little bit more difficult, but it was a great time. And all spray paint. Yeah. I keep hitting the button, but... And this is going to lead into something else that I'm going to talk more about in a moment. This is in my hometown, Clovis. This actually might be like one of my only murals in my own hometown. It's always kind of harder to play to the hometown crowd because they're like, So the upper right-hand corner is pencil on paper with some 24 karat gold embellishments. Was playing around with that. And I loved the concept of it. So whenever this project came up, it's actually on the side of a rodeo arena. So we got to kind of like play with some different aspects of things, which was color, composition, flow. Our panel, painting anything on corrugated sucks. Like a flat surface is way more fun. It was like 113 degrees outside. Go into more of that with the obstacles later on. But being able to play with concepts in different cultures, like the last one, you can go from Scandinavia, you can go from like Sweden, and you can do things where, like, if you play it right, it's not that different of a style from the last slide, with two very different cultures, with two very different things. Art's the thing that binds everybody together. So it's very, very cool to kind of like flow in and out of things. I can't remember what artist said it, but artists are the most dangerous because they get to go in and out of every different kind of society. Like 1 minute you're spray painting under a bridge, the next minute you're having a fancy dinner with collectors, and then the next you're like hanging out with a bunch of rodeo guys. Like you kind of get to flow through every class of society, which I really like. Let's move on into identity. This has to do for me with like different kinds of styles, like I was talking about, like where, like if you have your own style and your own identity in your artwork, then I mean, like, you can really just push boundaries. Like the last one that I painted, it's like the pickup men in the rodeo. The one before that, it was like a Viking type of thing. And then the few before that, there's like octopuses and everything. But each one of those, if you look at them, you know it's one of my paintings just because of the identity and the style. And that's super important. It's very hard to find. It's hard to find it overnight. You're probably not going to. I'm still working on it, and people change. So you get to kind of like evolve with yourself over time. Hence painting my buddy's horses every once in a while. It's like, and for a lot of us, like kind of growing up in the area, like sometimes it's like that's not very exciting, or it's like, oh, it's just a horse. But being able to tell a story through that and through the style, identity, and everything else is very, very cool. Me and my buddy came up with this. It was his dad's horse. His dad was riding pickup at a rodeo, picked up a guy off a bucking horse, stopped in the middle of the arena, was just looking around, had a massive heart attack, and died. Middle of the arena, doing what he loved. I hope that's how it goes someday. But having said that, the story of that was so cool. I was down hanging out at his ranch, and he was like, well, yeah, that's the horse. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, yeah, we still ride, like, that was a long time ago, but like we still use the horse every day and everything. And I was like, you still got his hat? And he was like, yeah, still got his saddle. And it's like, it's on him. And I was like, then I get like, we started talking about concepts, and it was like, oh, we get to really play around with this concept. And this painting has a lot of meaning, even though at face value for like the average viewer, like me or you, it's just a horse looking at a hat. For him, whenever he looks at that, that's like, the horse that his dad passed away on and the hat on the ground. There's just a lot of symbolism in it. And that you can just tell so many stories and have so much identity in these paintings. Similar, growing up with my background and everything, like I've really been enjoying like painting my friends and just like really leaning into kind of like the juxtaposition of street art, graffiti with like rodeo ranch culture. Like it's just like the coolest thing to me, because like you don't really see a lot of things like this done with spray paint in an urban environment. It's kind of unheard of. So I really love that part of things. This was through Hoodoo. This is one that's actually in downtown Amarillo with the actual saddle that we used for the painting in front of it, through Oliver Saddles here in Amarillo, and it's generations of saddle makers that are from here that have been here for forever, and I thought that was really cool. I always try to include some culture from the city that I'm painting in, just to give like kind of a thank you and a nod back to those things. This is another one in Seattle, I believe, leaning into identity as well. I like painting people that I know just because I feel like I get a better sense of things. This was a childhood friend that grew up down the road from me. We were friends. Our dads rode motorcycles together, and her older brother was my older brother's best friend. So it's just kind of fun. She moved to Seattle, and I was like, wait, you're here? And her and her family were there. So like she stopped by, and like I did a big mural of her, and then like moving on. This is one in Long Beach, California. I put this into the identity section because I painted a whole mural under this, and after a couple of weeks of painting, I decided I hated it and painted over it, and ended up doing this one. There's more on the end of it. It's a really long building, so this is just like one section of it. But this was the first large-scale mural in Los Angeles area, Long Beach, that I painted. And I know that it scared the heck out of the building owners whenever like they came 2 weeks after they had paid for this thing and I had changed the concept and painted over it completely. And I think that has a lot to do with like artistic integrity. It's like, you know, trust. Like the artist knows best. Like I know it's scary whenever it's just like, okay, well, you know that thing that we talked about that you funded me for, that you paid for all the paint for? I changed my mind. And so that was a big one for me. That was a big one for me because it was also really scary being my first large scale mural in LA. Moving on to another large scale one, just to like throw identity and symbolism in there. This is the third largest mural in Texas, I think now. It's in Beaumont, Texas. As well, free reign. They gave me free reign to paint whatever I wanted. I took a lot of photo references and things like that. And then this one is based off of Genesis in the Bible. So I got to kind of like put symbolism around that, with the spirit hovering over the water, creation of man. There's like a teapot in the corner in the right bottom hand corner representing the vessel and spirits and things like that. So like looking at it, you would never think that. But I think that that's like one of the coolest things about art in general, and this is why like my artist statement is I don't want to talk about it, because I love for people to get their own meaning out of my work and connect with it on a personal level and not be told what they mean. Because I just hate preachy, condescending art. It's like, man, I don't know. Here's me buy that for scale. It's freaking huge. A lot of fun. And I'll go into some challenges on that one a little bit later. Going into style and identity a bit more, I did some commission paintings for a restaurant in Tampa, Florida. Generally, I use all white backgrounds. I'll show you this next slide and then we'll go back to it. I generally use all white backgrounds in negative space because, just nerding out again, for me it's like academic. It's like removing 2,000 years of art evolution and symbolism and everything from paintings to make them modern, only painting the subject matter that I think is interesting. So that's like kind of like on a more like academic, like nerdy art history level. So this restaurant came to me and they were like, well, we want the backgrounds black. And so that was a stretch for me because I didn't want it to be dark. I didn't want it to get lost. So I had to figure out how to like do everything in my style and be able for people to tell that it was me without doing like the signature, like normal thing that I did, which is always great because it gets you out of your, what would you call that? Gets you out of your habits, gets you out of your, say again? That one, that's the word. So going into that, more just like playing with symbolism and things of that nature. These are two paintings, both done in acrylic. They had to be shipped out to galleries, so I had to get them done fast. And yeah, they're just fun. I used to hide these little toys all over my house, so that was just kind of like a personal thing with identity, where like Christmas time would roll around and there would just be like these tiny like army men and cowboy toys like hidden in the Christmas tree and greenery and stuff. So really just letting y'all know what a nerd I am. All right, here's another one in Amarillo, Texas. Going into identity, playing around with my friends again and painting concepts. This was one that I really love the concept of, just because like I did this with a buddy of mine. I was like, we got Hoodoo coming up, really got to take it to the next level. Every year, like there's this like huge wall, it's really cool, but we got to like do like the cool thing. Like we got to do something cooler. So we came up with this concept together. Every morning, there's always a few fresh horses at every ranch before all the cowboys ride off. And the young horses always like pitch a little bit, and the rest of the cowboys at Sunlight are just kind of waiting around on this like one or two guys to get their horses to where they'll act right. I was like, that is the coolest thing for a painting, because if you know, you know, and if you don't, you can still appreciate the painting. Once again, it's all spray paint on wall. I love the ghost sign behind it. This is one of my favorites to paint, and I pick every one of them apart after I paint them, so I'm just seeing everything I did wrong in it. So we're gonna show you that for scale, colors, things like that. I can't remember how many colors I ended up using for that sucker, but it was a lot. Here's another one in downtown Amarillo. Same friend of mine. And yeah, it's been great to really lean into like identity and not do so many commercial projects, which we'll get into a little bit more later in a minute. We're probably almost out of time. Sorry, guys. And here's a few more of those two together, both in y'all's downtown Amarillo. Which leads me to life lessons. More like painting life lessons. I'm not even about to start life lessons. I'm not very good at life. All right, so lessons. Every wall, every painting, something will go wrong. It's never just painting a painting. It's never just painting a mural. There's always something that's going to mess up. Just like your lift getting stuck in the mud. So this happened on that big wall. About an hour in, I turn around and my friend had driven straight into that. And he was looking like a lowrider in a Dre and Snoop video. I mean, he was stuck up there. And so we had that lift stuck for about 48 hours. You can see how deep the hole was once we finally got it out, because like a couple of artist geniuses that we are, let's just keep turning the wheel. You hit that button and I'll hit this button. No, you're hitting that button wrong. Let's hit that button again. It just kept digging itself in. So this has happened on probably like 90% of every wall that I've ever been on. Something like this will happen. For example, this same wall, that's me on the left with a torch cutting all the metal off of the wall because it wasn't ready to paint. And then on the last 3 days, that's my eye. And a huge splinter of something the last 3 days of painting that wall flew into my eye, and every time I would blink, I would scratch my cornea. So that was fun. Same wall, it rained. One day it snowed, and then the rest of the time it was like 80 degrees and we cooked in the sun. So it's never just like, I'm just going to go paint this wall. It's like, good luck. Anyway, that's kind of gross, but I don't know. I thought you guys would like that. Here we are again with another stuck lift. Oh no, imagine that. And then you always have the friend that's just hanging out eating potato chips. That's my friend Rabbi. Just another thing, be sure that whoever you take to help you, that your friends are reliable. Amazing painter, not so good when digging a lift out. Here's a little one. This was in, oh man, where was this mural? I'll remember in a little bit. I think it was around San Diego. But so the lesson on this one is worked on this project back and forth emailing for about a year. Negotiating designs, different things. And we get there, paint the mural in 4 days, and then I spent a lot of money on augmented reality because they wanted to be able to hold your phone up to it, and the lantern would turn, and then there was like shadows of whales going behind it on the wall, which was the coolest thing and the most awesome concept there was. They gave me the company to help me animate them, and out of my own pocket, I paid for it all. And then, unbeknownst to all of us, the company that I was using was in a little place called Ukraine. And this was a few years ago. And so it didn't really work out great because a war broke out. And so that didn't really pan out, and the guy that we were using didn't really do that great of a job because he was dealing with a lot more important things. Anyways, 2 or 3 companies later, we did it. It never worked right. Life lesson, if you're uncomfortable with something, always try it. But finding the right people to help you, once again, is very important. Another obstacle life lesson or art lesson, Everything's a little bit difficult. So if you can tell that this one is on a corner, so getting the perspective right to where that golden statue looked correct was really, really difficult. And then after getting it all done, they decided that they wanted that wall to look like marble. So then that was also hard because that would have been nice to know starting out. So communication is key, which I'm not the best at. And then I think another important thing, and this is all just my own personal thing, like just a lot of little things that I wish somebody would have told me whenever I was starting out. This wall. This was the biggest wall at the festival that I painted, and I decided that I wanted to flex. And I think it'd be like really cool just to like get the biggest wall and kind of like not paint much on it. I really wish I would have went really hard on that wall instead of leaving all that negative space. Just because I don't know when I'll get another big, huge, white, primed, beautiful wall like that again. And then on top of that, I decided that I would play around and see if I could make a candle appear on a white background. I don't know if you guys have ever held up a white piece of paper with a candle. It doesn't show up. It has to be a dark background. But I kind of like wanted to be like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then like all my friends will be like, dang, you did that. And then I did it and I don't like it. Anyways, moving on. This is a great one. Another lesson. This is in Moscow, Russia. Also, obviously a while back because I probably won't be going to Russia, or any of us will probably not going to Russia anytime soon now. So this one was a collaboration with a lot of friends. You can see that's my buddy Tristan Eaton's on the right with the cool astronaut thing. He's way cooler than me, does way cooler work than me, and I'm super jealous. But so on the left, that's me. And they gave us kind of a time frame to do it between, they asked me how long I would need to paint this mural, and I said about 3 weeks. And the Russians, so they said, how about 9 days? And I said, 2 weeks, and they said, 9 days. And I said, 12 days, and they said, 9 days. Like 9 days on top of travel, so like day travel there, day travel back, and then like 9 days of painting? No, 9 days. Okay. So we had 9 days. Every day we had to move that lift. I wasn't allowed to pilot the lift on my own, so there was a Serbian guy that didn't speak Russian or English down there piloting the lift. I took my friend with me. Once again, it's important to have good help. And by the end of that thing, they had their own language, sign language. He'd whistle a certain way and he'd raise it 3 feet. It was wild, but communication is key. And it's not always the easiest thing. You kind of do whatever you can do with the time that you have. So those are a lot of lessons. And then moving into exhibitions, because I know like a lot, like every artist that I know, it's like I want to show in galleries. I want to do big exhibitions. I want to do museum stuff. I've done a little bit of that. Here is, my alarm's going off. Okay, so here is exhibitions thing. Just kind of like briefly to show some gallery exhibitions. This was a work on paper show in Seattle, and I just really enjoyed that show. The gallery is no longer with us. Here is another gallery exhibition from the Works on Paper show, and then there's a few of the paintings that I showed earlier in the gallery on the right. We're just going to run through these a little bit so I can get to you guys and hopefully answer a few questions. This was a residency that I did in the Red Bull House of Art in Detroit, gallery exhibition. I spent 3 months up there with a few different artists, which it's always interesting when you get different artists from all over the world staying with each other in an apartment. I don't recommend it, but it was a great experience. Sweet guys, nice guys. Here's a painting on a wall from that gallery exhibition. I love seeing people interact with art. So this is kind of a cool thing where like in that gallery, I painted life-size paintings of people. So like whenever people were walking around, it just looked like there was like a Victorian lady with a candle. And then also, this is one of my favorite photos just because of the shadowy hand pointing. This was in the same gallery exhibition. But this was on canvas, so the canvases were mixed in with the installations on the wall. So some you could tell were canvases just because of like the raised canvas, and then the others were just in there. So it's great. It's my favorite thing seeing people interact with paintings in these exhibitions. Here's a process shot of a painting, and then in the gallery, just seeing people get their own thoughts from something I really nerd out on, because it's like probably not what I intended at all, what their meanings from anything is. To me, it's like listening to a song. Everybody gets their own meaning out of it. Some of the saddest songs make me happiest, and some of the saddest songs make other people sad. Some happy songs make people sad for whatever memories are attached to those. So I think it's like super cool to see people interact with paintings that same way, and just for people to get their own thing out of it. Here's another one from that same exhibition. That one was in Los Angeles at a museum. Here's that big oil painting again that was through that same thing. And then moving into installations in galleries, which is always fun. It is kind of cool because they just let you do whatever. So here's an acrylic painting on the wall of Wilson. That's the skeleton that I have in my studio. It's like an anatomy skeleton. But have any of y'all seen Castaway, Tom Hanks? Yeah, like the volleyball. I'm alone a lot in the studio. If you're an artist, you get it. You're just alone a lot, painting a lot. So that's Wilson. He's my volleyball. We hang out a lot. Here it is. This is finished. I always like to do like a little bit of, I'll do installation stuff where I'll hang a light above it or some sort of three-dimensional element to where it looks like the shadows are actually getting cast by that light source. This one is in the Long Beach Museum of Art. I can't remember what year this was. This was a few years back. And then it kind of, we'll keep it moving in that direction. But this next one is kind of cool. This is, so this is Judith and Holofernes. And this was like a famous painting back in the day. Every artist has kind of like done their take off of it, anything like that. There's like sculptures, there's paintings and everything. Well, this was actually hanging in a museum that I was going to do a painting in, and they said that founders of the museum had bought this painting and had it in their living room, and it caused all sorts of controversy. Like, people would come over for dinner, and there was just a lady holding up this dude's head that she had just cut off, and I was just like, dang, that's crazy. You know what? I should paint that in the museum. So here's my version of that with a couple of my friends, and just so we fast forward for a minute, he's fine. He's fine. That's him. He's standing there. His head is attached. And then there's just me fostering inspiration with the youth. But once again, you have the light source, different things, different symbolism that I put in myself to make that really classic old painting modern with my own twist on it. Which leads me, after fostering the youth, into grown-up work. This is the commissions. This like, if you guys pursue art, it will be the bane of your existence. But you have to do it to make money, to live, to buy like food and groceries and stuff. So the first one, I figured I'd use a Texas example. This is on the Virgin Hotel in Dallas, Texas. I got commissioned to do it, and I thought that it was a great idea whenever they were like, hey, yeah, just, do like whatever you want. I was like, you asked for it. You're going to get a floating astronaut lady in a Victorian dress with a bunch of weird stuff. Having said that, the coolest thing about using symbolism and everything is it's like, it makes things very interesting. Virgin has like space flights. They also, Virgin Records. So the paper airplanes over on the side, because they have flights and things, have bands like the Smashing Pumpkins, Roy Orbison, music notes on those just to add another dimension and layer, as well as standing the test of time with the prop of the hourglass. Exploration, there's like a sight glass, and then there's like other little things hidden all throughout that just to play into the Virgin brand. And then my favorite part of that is they let me put a shoe all the way up at the top, like your shoe is flying off. It has nothing to do with anything, and that's why I love it. Next up, this is at Interscope Records. Anybody know band NWA? Yeah. That's one of my favorites, and they also let me do my spin of the NWA cover for Straight Outta Compton. And the reason for that is this is outside of Interscope Records conference room, so this mural is titled Straight Out of Conference. Nerd. This is, any of you guys play video games? Yeah, any of you guys games? Anybody play God of War? Yeah, so I did this for Sony and Santa Monica Studio and God of War Ragnarok. So this is an oil painting for that game where we went back and forth to figure out like what we wanted to do for that game without giving the entire storyline of the game away. So I think I did about 16 sketches and different concepts for this, and they landed on the first one that I did, which was the totem. That's always how it goes. Anyways, so this is the process of that, all oil on canvas, and this is the finished painting hanging in the Santa Monica office now. This was the coolest thing because trying to get the references and stuff down, they really like wouldn't let me do a lot of the things I wanted to do because it would hint too much away for the game. Having said that, I had to order God of War figurines because they wouldn't give me any references that I needed. So I was actually like playing with action figures and then like doing the painting with it. So here's some more grown-up work that I haven't really told anybody about. This was the first semi-truck that Tesla made. Tesla brought me down. They hit me up 48 hours before they opened the Gigafactory, and they were like, hey, would you come paint our first semi-truck that we're unveiling at the Gigafactory in 2 days? Being able to go off the fly is always important whenever you're creative. Preparation and time is always the best, but it seems like we never get that. You just got to keep going. So I said yes, and I was driving down. I was pulling over on the highway and doing the sketches and the mock-ups as I was going, emailing simultaneously while driving down to Austin. And so finally we landed on one that I said was doable to do in 48 hours plus drive time. And they said, let me ask the big guy. I was like, is that like the big guy? And so that was kind of a cool experience. This is outside of the Gigafactory opening. And yeah, it was a very interesting experience. I'm still not like the proudest of the actual art. This is in process. I don't think that I threw in a finished shot of this one because I didn't want you guys to judge me. It went really late into the night trying to like get that whole thing painted basically in like a single day. But this just made me happy because I got to spray paint on a brand new Tesla, and it was like the first one ever built. And they were like, yeah, sure, you can spray paint on our pickup. So I got a really cool job. Next on that, figuring out the appropriate things to paint and grown-up work. This is at the Palms Casino. It was a temporary thing while they were under construction, so they brought a few of me and my friends in to paint in the Palms Casino. Once again, they said, we love your work, do whatever. I got about 3/4 done through this one, and one of the guys came up and he was like, hey man, like we're in a casino. A lot of people are losing money. Do you think you could like paint something happier? Like, no, I can't. So, but that was something between these two where it's like, okay, very particular in what you paint on the brand new truck. We're going to kind of like figure out the design, but we're going to be pretty picky about it off the fly with no time. And then going into another place where they just say like, yeah, do whatever. And then like halfway through, they're like, ooh, maybe we should have given you some direction. So anyways, and then moving into the next one, I guess that's me. I don't know. I don't know if questions is a good thing. We want to ask questions. Any questions? I don't know how much time I went over too, Sean. No. Like I said, lock the doors up. Let's keep going. Anybody got any quick questions real quick? First hand up there. Like the longest time, like how long it took. Man, generally like on murals, it's not like canvas work. Most of the time you have about 9 days to 2 weeks. So everything up there was probably about 2 weeks, generally speaking. So it's like, gotta go fast. My favorite food? Oh, dog, pasta. I mean, like, forgot the question? Oh. I think what we should
that, are you willing to hang out up here for a
we'll
minute?
hang out.
This guy's cool. This guy's cool. Can we give him a big round of applause? Amazing.
Dude,
Amazing.
I didn't realize how long it was going to take.
No.
There we go. How long did I go?
When you have a prolific career, there's a lot to talk about.